Good evening, my fellow Americans. This is the 11th of December, 2025 edition of A Quiet Rage. It's been a few weeks since I've actually done an episode. There was Thanksgiving and travel, and I had family in town. So it's been a minute. There's only one thing I want to talk about tonight, and it's the drug boats. The alleged drug boats. And posts on social media like this one. The original post: hot take. If you've never held a mother while she wails in agony and pounds your chest with her fists because you just told her that her child died of an overdose, I do not care about your opinion on shooting missiles at narco-terrorists. It was reposted by someone else, which is how I saw it. The end of what they had to say, agreeing with the original post, was, I don't give a fuck if you think blowing up drug runners without due process is bad. I don't care. I hope that when the boat is blown up, that everyone in it is wounded but living, and they suffer for the next 5 days as they slowly die in the water. I'm not going to tell you who those people are. I don't know the original poster. I know the person that reposted it. I'm not going to tell you who that is either. They know. If they're watching, they know. I have a few thoughts. I haven't held a mother while she wails in agony because I've never had to inform someone that their child had died of an overdose. But I did, while I was on my first shore duty, I had one of my young sailors died of an overdose in the barracks. A young man that was working for me. I didn't know him super well. I had like 100 junior sailors that I was in charge of at the time, and they came and went into and out of my my command pretty frequently and sometimes rather quickly. He was there for a little while. I remember him a little bit. And I don't remember if it was cocaine or heroin. I want to say it was heroin. Doesn't matter. We had a memorial service for him on the base for his family. It wasn't for him. It was for his family. And his mother and his sister and maybe his stepdad, I don't remember. But I was there in my dress blue uniform, and his mother, I don't know if she recognized that with all of my everything on my sleeve and everything on my chest that I was a senior person, or if somebody pointed her out, if one of the other young junior sailors had pointed me out to his mother. But she came over to me and she said, I guess my son worked for you. You were in charge of him? I said, yes, ma'am. And she looked at me with the most pain I've ever seen in a person's face. And she asked me, was my Bobby, was he a hard worker? Was he a good kid? Was he a good sailor? And I looked her in the eye and I said, yes, ma'am, he was. Not because I knew that he had been a good worker, aside from obviously abusing narcotics. Not to honor his memory or anything. I didn't, as I said, there were many sailors I was in charge of. I didn't really know him very well. I said that for her because that's what she needed to hear. That's what she wanted and needed in that moment, was to hear that for all his failings, he for one obvious failing, drug abuse, he wasn't all bad. That there was good in her son. I hadn't really thought about that particular moment in my 20 years in the Navy for a long time. But I'm confident that it's not anything I'm ever going to forget. Her brown eyes full of tears, full of heartbreak and longing, looking for something to hold on to. She turned to me in that moment. I won't always think of it, but I'll never forget it. That's for sure. But even if that hadn't happened to me, I was in the Navy. It's the Navy that's conducting these strikes. It's the U.S. military that's conducting these strikes. And I'm a citizen of this country. And I don't need that guy's permission. I don't need either of their permission to care about what my country does with the military of which I was a part and to which I have paid taxes, for which we all, as American citizens, have some responsibility and ownership. This is being done in our name, after all. So I don't need anyone else's permission to have an opinion on this. I don't need to have watched a mother plead with me in words and in body language to tell her that her son was still a good kid. Her recently deceased son had been a good kid. I don't need that to critique what we are doing. And I will say again, as I have said previously, after 20 years in the submarine force, I have an expertise in the military. I am not a military expert, but this is not what we should be doing. In my professional opinion, as a former sailor, this is not what we should be doing. As an American citizen, it is my personal opinion, this is not what we should be doing. At least one of the boats that we sank, there were 2 survivors that were picked up and returned to their countries. Not brought to the U.S. to face charges, not sent to Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay, where we have historically, recently, somewhat recently anyway, sent political prisoners, non-combatants, non-military members, terrorists. That's where we've sent some terrorists. So suspected terrorists. And people keep calling these guys narco-terrorists, these guys in these boats. First of all, so we sent 2 of them back to their countries. They were from 2 different countries, I think, if I remember correct. Why? Why did we send them back? Why didn't we charge them and try them? If they're narco-terrorists, if we have the authority to kill them without notice on the high seas, certainly we would have the authority and the evidence to try and convict them. Yes? Apparently not. And this is the Coast Guard, the Navy, we have been doing drug interdiction, capturing drug runners on the high seas for a while now. We know how to do this. We've even managed to capture a narco submarine, which is rather difficult because they built them specifically with the ability to scuttle them quickly if approached. We've captured at least one of those. No small feat. Apparently we're not in that business anymore. Apparently we're just murdering these people on the high seas. And it is murder. It's not justice. For one thing, it's not the US Navy or the US Coast Guard's job to hand out justice. That's not what the military does. We can arrest people and turn them over to the authorities, and then they can be tried, and justice can be served in that way. It is part of the Navy's job to kill people, certainly. That's what our weapons are for, is to kill people. But it's to kill enemy combatants, not people in boats with, if they have small arms at all, it's nothing that's going to do anything against a naval vessel. And you don't just get to say these people have declared war on the United States, because they haven't. What they're carrying, allegedly, is narcotics. Those aren't arms, those aren't bombs, that's drugs, and you don't get to just decide that drugs are just as bad as guns or bombs all on your own, even if you're the president or the Secretary of Defense. You don't get to do that. Because that's not justice. That's retribution. That's not even retribution. That's revenge. And that's not what our president, that's not what our Secretary of Defense and our US military is for. They're there to defend us, to fight our wars, but not kill drug runners. Even, let's say they are drug runners. Let's say every one of these boats, for the sake of argument, let's say every one of these boats was in fact carrying drugs, even though some of them weren't actually going north towards the United States, and none of them are big enough to carry enough fuel to get all the way from Venezuela through the Caribbean, around Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and all the way up to Florida. Let's just say these were all drug runners. It's not Pablo Escobar in the boat. By that I mean, it's nobody high-ranking in these narco-terrorist organizations, these cartels, on the boats. Who is it? It's the lowest of the low guy on the totem pole. Because they are the most at risk. They're trafficking drugs across international waters. They are the most at risk. They are the most vulnerable to being picked up by authorities. So these are the brand new guys, don't know anybody, don't know anything, just join the group, the cartel. And by the way, one of the tactics that cartels use to get people to ferry drugs, not always, but one of, is to, say, kidnap a female family member hold them and sometimes use them as sex slaves, or use that as a threat to get the brother, the uncle, the father to do the drug running. So there's a non-zero chance that one or two of these people in these boats is just hoping that they can make this run and get back home and satisfy these cartel motherfuckers that have their sister, their aunt, their cousin in a cage somewhere, threatening to sell them into sex slavery. And we killed these people with no evidence. Have you seen any evidence other than this people from this administration who are known liars, who lie daily, hourly, some of them? We've seen no. I'm still waiting on the high resolution photo that says, "Yep, this is definitely drugs. We know because of X, Y, and Z." We just have the press secretary, the secretary of defense, the president, liars, all of them, telling us this is drugs. It's just got to trust us. My source is, trust me, bro. No, this is not what we should be doing. It's not. And I don't need any interaction or experience with an overdose to know that this is wrong. And we, as American citizens, we as humans, should be appalled by this and should be standing up against it. It's abhorrent. It is not. It's not the way we're supposed to behave. It's not the way we should behave. We're better. We're supposed to be better than this as a country. That's all I have for you tonight. As always, I highly encourage you to find, if you haven't already, find your local Democratic group, whether it be city, county, state, whatever. Join, go to meetings. I went to a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it was fantastic. It was our first meeting after the recent elections, and the mood was high. The vibes were great. Everyone, here in Virginia, we made a clean sweep of governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general, even though the attorney general got a little dicey there. And as I've said before, I don't care what you think about what he said, that attorney general, Jay Jones. I'm not going to have my tone policed, nor anyone else's, by anyone wearing a fucking MAGA hat. I don't care. Your standard of political speech means nothing to me. Boo me all you want. I've seen what makes you cheer. So, got off track there. Find your people and gather. Even if you don't have the time to volunteer, even if you don't have the money to pay the dues, but you can just show up to the meetings and just be there. Paying your dues is helpful. Goes to a lot of good things, helps to fund the keeping the party going in the rest of the year when there's not an election going. Anyway, find your people and gather. And if you, like I do, understand that the United States has a higher purpose and a higher calling than to be murdering people just because it makes some of us feel better at night, especially murdering people without evidence, without a trial. If you feel as I do, then keep your quiet rage. Good night, my fellow Americans.